here with us. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And thanks to all of you for coming. So I'm just going to start with you, Lisa. Doing the work that you've been doing for a while, when did you start to realize, or when did it start to feel like programming was not just a man's world? Or is that just a super outdated notion?
Well, sometimes it still feels that way.
Yeah.
It's definitely something in progress. But yeah, I got into the field about 2.5 years ago. Okay. And before that, I was working in marketing. I was always interested in technology, and technology was growing piece of marketing, and I thought, well, if I learned how to build websites, that would go well with that. So, and I had sort of maxed out at my job and was looking for something that would stay challenging, and I found it with programming. And so I went to the software school, and have been, Eliza was the only female developer that I knew locally. And she and I together formed the Nashville Women Programmers and have been building community. And we, like my first year in development, I went to a hackathon and there were 4 women there with maybe...
Out of how many people?
Like 100
okay.
or more. Yeah, so, and then the next year we had 30. Okay. Convinced them to show up. So I think we've got maybe 250 or so members in the group.
Okay.
I used to be able to keep track of all the people that were joining, but I'm not sure if it's like spam or anything now. But yeah, still there's some good legitimate members in there.
And what do you do? What's the group do? Do you have regular meetings or? Yeah,
we meet every second and fourth Monday. Right now we're meeting at Eventbrite, and we've gone through different things based on the feedback that people have provided. We used to just meet up and everyone would bring projects, and then we switched to a speaker format, and we just keep adapting based on what people are looking for.
Okay. So Sonda and Alicia, I'll just ask you, how did you get interested in programming and developing? I'll start with you, Sonda. We'll go down the line.
All right. Well, I think it started in high school for me. I took a programming class way back in the day. I guess I was lucky in the fact that I went to the Alabama School of Math and Science, and so they had a computer science department there. However, that was kind of short-lived because I ended up dropping out of that class because it was a bit strange for me because at that time, I was the only woman there, and it was like 20 other guys. And after a while, it's like, well, man, programming is going to have a lot of math in it. There's a lot of things that I'm not going to understand. And I went out of it. Like, I didn't keep up with it. I went and did neuroscience and really enjoyed that. But all throughout, I did programming-like things. And so when I applied to the Nashville Software School, it was after doing a lot more of that stuff and getting back into the community. It's changed to me a lot since what I remember back in high school. I had like this idea of what programming is, and it's not that way at all.
Can you tell me more about that?
Well, first of all, that first idea of like programming is going to be a bunch of math, and I'll just be in a cubicle doing mathy things. That's not it. Okay. Like, programming to me is more about like building things, and more about in my head, okay, I want this program, I want this piece of software to help people do this. And then it's about solving this particular problem. And it might require some math, and that's okay. But that programming isn't math. That's one of the things. And I also thought that, well, it's going to be a homogenous community or something like that. That's not it either.
Okay.
a part of it when I started coming back into it again is going to like Girl Geek dinners or Nashville Women's Programmers and things like that. And we're just a very diverse community here in Nashville. And so there were just things that I thought in high school about what programming is and what programming actually is. And yeah, it was interesting to see the differences.
Okay, great. So, Alicia, what about you? What was your path to your career?
Let's see. Well, I've been in IT for about 10 years, and I've done PM, project management, I've done business analyst work, and I've been a BI developer for a while. And throughout my career, I've always been drawn to actually being hands-on and doing the work. So very often when a problem would come up, even though I'm the project manager, I get to talk about the project, or I'm the business analyst, and I get to, talk to people and try to determine what their problem is so that there can become, a project or solution can come about. And essentially, as my career progressed, I enjoyed BI development, working with data, programming reports per se, and wanting to do more hands-on work. So I found out about the software school actually looking for meetup groups, and was really just intrigued and excited that there was some training I could get on my own and really turn my career in that direction, away from some of the more managerial type things to hands-on doing the work.
So what were you doing in college when you first got out of high school? What were you studying?
Computer engineering.
Computer engineering.
Yeah.
Okay.
I flunked.
What about you? What were you studying right out of high school?
Right out of high school?
Yeah, when you started college.
I started off with biology, it turned into psychology, and then I graduated with neuroscience.
Okay, and you, Lisa?
I was in a psych major to start. I was not great at school, and I like hands-on stuff. So then I switched to marketing as sort of applied psychology with less school.
What did you think about the way the sexism was portrayed in the film? Did any of that resonate with you? I mean, obviously it was 1980, and it was, I don't know, I just would love your comments on the film, on that portion of it.
Yes, it did. The part that stuck out to me was the kind of the after parties after the events, and that's in some events in town, that's sort of a part of it, that's
the social element of it.
Yeah.
But are you talking about the gender dynamic there, or
just you can kind of open yourself up to I've never had any instances like that, but I have had people sort of in your space more, so I think that's something with the women programmers that we it's there, but it's not a central point to it. It's more there for the learning.
I halfway expected when we had this event, you guys would tell me that that was 1980. It's a totally different world now. But I just wonder.
I could say that.
Say that.
Yeah, I think as I've done consulting for a few years, and so a lot of times I think being a woman programmer has an advantage because of having personality and being sociable and being open to talking to people, as well as being technical, has been an advantage. So a lot of times I feel like I do have a leg up when I go for technical positions because of just gender biases, being a woman and being sociable.
Yeah, okay.
I can say a little more, too, to the sexist aspect. I've had sort of mixed experiences, and I've actually, when I was job searching a couple years ago, was told in an interview, you're the best candidate, but the upper management was looking for a guy, so I'm going to have to fight for you.
Yeah.
I was sort of dumbfounded at the time that happened, and I was on the job market, so I wasn't really in a place to make a stink about it, but that's actually happened.
What kind of what level organization was it? I mean, without saying too much.
Very, very central to Nashville. Not an outright tech organization, but
okay.
Yeah.
Healthcare.
Hi. No, actually. But
okay.
But that's probably the most explicit thing. I've had. I was at a startup for a while too, and there was a boat trip my second week, and I didn't want to seem like a square. So I decided to go with them, and it was a team of all guys, and I was like, well, there's either going to not be a bathroom on this pontoon boat, or it will be nasty. And there wasn't a bathroom. So there's just some things like that where, because there's not a woman already there thinking of things like that, and then less than that, I would say sometimes the use of he or the assumption and that kind of thing, that you're not a developer. Those little things add up, but I think as of late at my current company, I have been like at this oasis of, there's a lot of women there. It's very diverse, and they actually have a chief diversity officer. It's not me anymore. So,
nice.
So it's been better.
What are you trying to do with the Nashville Women's Programmers? Is there any kind of agenda for that, or is it just a chance to connect and make friends and just talk about your work, or is there some kind of objective for getting more women into programming?
Yeah, it's kind of both of those things. The educational aspect, we saw that a lot of user groups in town were sort of not really at a beginner level, and we wanted to make that very clear that that's just kind of how a lot of members are coming from that area. They didn't get the message growing up that they could be programmers. Mm-hmm. So we make it very clear that we welcome everyone, not just women. Okay. We want to build a more diverse community, and a big part of that is being welcoming, being able to ask questions, starting from nowhere, and I think that's been really effective. And then also to make friends and then go out to the other user groups, because there is literally a meeting every night or an event on tech. You could be super busy.
What is a user group?
Oh, good question.
Well, I guess I can speak to it. A user group is, to me, it's just people coming together with a common interest, wanting to learn more about a certain topic. Okay. So, and Lisa's right, there's like one every night. Sometimes there's so many that you might have to schedule one in the morning or at lunch.
Can you just throw out a couple of examples of the types of I'm just curious.
So, for example, there's a lot of them for particular languages.
Okay.
So, for example, if you're, say, a JavaScript programmer, there's Nash.js that you can go to, so that it'll just supplement your learning, meet like-minded people, just gain more insight into your field. Okay. And that's that way for other languages too. So there's like a .NET meetup for people doing .NET or people wanting to learn. There's for user experience. So it runs the whole gamut of what you'd like to learn in your field. And then it's just a chance. A lot of these meetups have 20 minutes before and after that people can just, say hi to people that they haven't seen in a month or 2 weeks, a chance to network with people and just reconnect with friends.
Okay. So yeah.
Oh, and the community actually put together a website, kind of keep track of all those groups, and I see Jacques, what's it called?
Groups.nashvillecode.org.
Groups.nashvillecode.org.
Well, in some ways that's hard because I think program is still very much like the wild frontier. The best practices are changing all the time, and everyone's got an opinion. In my opinion, something that code that's very modular, very well spaced out, so it's easy to read, grouped with like things, small files, all kind of pulling in. Those are a few of my opinions on beautiful code.
That is a good one, though.
Thank you.
So I know that in languages that you're learning, there are best practices and certain standards. So you could think of it as what the standard of beauty for artwork is like. There's what you think, and there might be also what critics would view a piece of artwork. There's that. So and there is sort of the eye of the beholder kind of thing. For me, when I look at a piece of code and I think, wow, that's amazing, it's looking at it, and so code is there not just for show, it's supposed to do something, even if what it's doing is frivolous or whatnot. But if it's doing it in a sort of a brilliant way, I would consider that beautiful, something that, like, wow, I never thought to make it in just this certain way. I would think that's beautiful. Readability is certainly a part of it. After you're in the field for a while, you tend to look at a piece of code and go, I don't know if does that work? Won't it fall apart after a while? Like,
I guess it's easier to spot unbeautiful code.
Right, there's that too.
Alicia?
Yeah, to me, beautiful code is just code I can understand, or I think that's understandable. Because when you cross languages, there's a commonality to where you should be able to understand what's going on. And some code is simple and it's modular, and that's great. And if I can understand it, that's great. But then sometimes, people write code where they're like, I got my code down to 10 lines. And it's like, but do you know what they're doing? No way. So to me, beautiful code is just code that you can understand, that people from different disciplines can go into and say, oh, I know what they were doing.
So, like, say you're making a tower or something, the Taj Mahal, out of Lego blocks. You wouldn't necessarily think about it as, okay, I'm going to, for me, there is no translation there. It's more like, okay, first I need a foundation. So, well, these big blocks will do it. Let's start off with that. So kind of talking about what Lisa is saying, a lot of what programmers do is write pseudocode, which is like saying, first I want to do this task, then I want to do this task, and then going and making, pulling out what's in your head, the functions that would allow you to do that task, and writing it out. So then it's like, oh, all right, time to make the foundation. I'll use these big blocks. Time to make a bell tower. I guess I'll use this specific block. To me, that's how I do it. So it's hard for me to think about like translating between like English and Spanish or English and German, if that makes any sense to you.
Yeah. I guess my answer to the question would be, I remember my first computer program I wrote was on some little square box thing with like 3 lines you could read, and it was in BASIC. And it was like if you type this whole line, you could run this program. And then, through college, taking computer classes, but, now doing classes again, to me, looking at a different computer language is saying, okay, I know I can do these things. How do I tell the computer to do it? And so as I'm learning a new language, I'm like, oh, okay. This is how I write if statements. If I need something to happen, then this is how I do it. And then it starts to become parallels between. So it's almost looking at it very objectively and saying, okay, I know there's things I can do with this. How do I make it do it? And then once I learn how to do it, I'm like, oh, that's the same as, when I was coding that silly thing in BASIC. That's exactly the same concept. I can do that with this new language too. So it's, it just depends on preference. So for me, it's just, learning what new things I can do with the coding language, and then the connections kind of speed things up.
I've had a couple articles here and there, and every time I get nervous to read the comment section. In fact, a lot of groups advise not to read the comments in general all over the internet. I've seen comments about sort of discrediting me or my experience, or stuff about how I look, just in like maybe like 6 different articles I've had. But I tried to lay a little bit low. Like in some ways, I don't want to be out there too much for that reason. Because people can be really cruel, but I've mostly I did used to pay attention to a lot of that stuff, and ever since I started my new job about 7 months ago, I've really just tried to tune that out and have been taking a self-care break to really build myself back up again and enjoy being in a diverse environment. And going back into some of that in preparation for this was kind of just a reminder how fortunate I am to have found a company like this. And but it's definitely a problem. I think that it's changing a little bit as people start to speak out, as celebrities, bring attention to it. And I believe that, the new media is social media. I mean, that's a lot of what the news is reporting on right now, it seems. And so if we keep speaking out and drawing attention to these things, it gets really hard to ignore. So I am hopeful in that regard that ideas are changing as people keep drawing attention to this.
Any of you have anything to add to that?
I haven't experienced it myself, but I've heard my teacher is also female, Eliza Brock, and she was saying that Nashville is a nice community in the fact that it is very diverse, but there are other places in which women aren't prevalent, and so stereotypes are made in that regard. And there have been incidences, and quite a number of them, in which there are cyberbullying between other people and women programmers, in which other people say that, oh, you can't do it just because of your gender. So it's definitely out there. But as Lisa's saying, hopefully times are changing, but I think it'll take a while.
I think that's also why our group is important to, kind of counteract a lot of those negative messages you get, whether they're meant or, unintended.
So are any of you three working with students, like middle school, high school students, girls who are maybe considering careers in technology, or do you know of any established group that's doing that work?
Yeah, locally there's a group called 100 Girls of Code, and they have summer camps, and they're a big effort here in Tennessee and expanding to other cities. My organization, HCA, started a group called IT Girls. I haven't been able to participate because I've had a big project going on, but I do want to get involved with that. But I found that where I've been the most useful and where I'm most passionate is working with people who are in their careers but wanting a change. Mm-hmm. I think it's great to invest in the next generation, but I think that there's a lot that we can do right now with the people that are on hand that are bright and ready to learn. I think sometimes there's too much of this ideal rock star hacker, and so with the group that we have, being able to bring in beginners and build them up has been where I've focused the most.
Yeah. Good. Any other questions in the audience? Well, I just want to thank you all all three for being with us today. Lisa French, Sandasan Gupta, Alicia Williams, thanks so much for joining us, and thank y'all for sticking around.